Hello and welcome to Moneylife. Last week, investors in fixed maturity plans got a big shock of their lives. Two of the fund houses could not pay back the investors when these schemes actually matured. The reason for this was simple. These funds have invested money in the Z Group, the unlisted businesses of the Z Group, which did not have solid cash flows. And against that, they had taken collateral for the Z Group's listed company shares. Now, what happened is that these funds and quite a few of the other institutional investors got together and had lent money to the Z Group, and they all decided that they will not sell shares and they give the Z Group for a long time, let's up to September 30th, to be able to pay back. Now, this has sent actually shockwaves across the fund industry, and especially the investors are wondering what's going to happen to other FMPs. This, according to us, is an extremely serious issue. The name fixed maturity plans signifies that they mature over a fixed period. And when they mature over a fixed period, the funds are supposed to pay back the investors. If they can't pay back, that's a serious breach of trust. It's almost like a default. Now, what are the lessons from this particular episode? Lesson number one, which is for mutual funds. They have acted like a herd and they were reckless in lending to group against listed company shares. Now, this is not solid debt investing or debt securities investing backed where you pick up securities against good rating backed by good cash flows. This was a rather reckless and a very large investment by some of these funds to this listed company shares of the Z Group. So there are two lessons here for mutual funds. One, of course, is that they have to be far more careful about selecting debt securities, the conventional, traditional way that the debt securities are picked up, and not get into easy stuff like loans against shares for extra bit of interest. They put their investors at risk if they do that. And second lesson, of course, for the mutual funds is that they should not be acting herd-like, because here I'm told there are about 40 such institutional investors who have all lent money to the Z Group exactly in the same manner. And they had to come together and create a standstill agreement, which is not to sell shares and give the Z Group a long period of time. And they're, after all, acting like bankers. They're not bankers, they're investors. And they should act like one. The second lesson is that for investors. Now, at Moneylife, we've been asking people not to invest in FMPs. And this has been our stance for more than 10, 11 years now. The reason for that is very simple. We keep things very easy and very simple to understand. We say take risks in equities where you have chances of growth. Don't take risk in fixed income part where the chances of appreciation is virtually nothing. You get only a very, very fixed, maybe around 7, 8, 9% depending on the time you invest. And so it is rather silly to take chances with your principal, capital on the debt side. You should be very conservative on the debt side and you should be aggressive on the equity side. Investors, of course, behaviorally tend to do the opposite. Now, FMPs within the category of debt funds are a particularly no-no for us because the structure is very opaque, the time period is very short, and you do not get any indicative returns of where the money is going to come from and what kind of returns you're likely to get. And in this case, of course, now we get to see that FMPs have an exposure to the stock market through the investments they've done in the Z Group shares. So all the more reason for investors to be extremely risk averse and cautious about investing in debt funds, overall fixed income products. If you're investing in the bonds or NCDs of a good quality company, or if you're taking a fixed deposits of a bank, of a scheduled commercial bank, your capital is protected more or less. You know what you're going to get as a matter of interest. But in debt, although it's called fixed income investment, it's a misnomer. When you invest in debt funds, what you get is capital gains. You don't get fixed income, you don't get fixed interest at all. And your principal is not guaranteed by anybody. So you should be extremely careful about investing in debt funds, and we recommend liquid funds and short-term debts for most part. So that's the lesson for investors. Finally, the lesson for the regulator, and the regulator, of course, here is Securities Exchange Board of India. Under Ajay Tyagi, the SEBI has been doing a great job. They have recategorized the mutual funds both on the equity and the debt side. This has forced funds to regroup their schemes, and they have to rethink before they can launch schemes like they're launching consumer products on different variants. So all of that was great, but over the last 6 months, ever since the ILFS debacles started and the debt funds are unable to make payments to their investors, SEBI has not been quite on the ball. The credit rating agencies, which had given AAA ratings to a company like ILFS, which is now tottering, and as well in this case of the FMPs that has just happened last week, SEBI has been found to be acting very, very slow. SEBI should have, in fact, a very strong institutional memory, because FMPs had gone through a similarly very bad patch in 2008 when the then chairman had called the fund houses and warned them to take not to take such additional risks and put fund investors in jeopardy. But SEBI does not seem to have acted in this case fast enough, and it should. So these are the 3 lessons that we can take from this episode of FMPs, which is just started and possibly unfolding. For investors like you and me, please remember, do not take additional risks with debt mutual funds. For your fixed income, you should be thinking of bank deposits, but if you're in a higher tax bracket, you should be thinking of maybe short-term debt funds, liquid funds, and maybe NCDs and bonds of good quality companies. Thank you for watching.